like somebody mentioned, I find many similarities between this film and a lot of films made in India by Films Division in the late 60s. And I don't know how many of you were here for India 67. And the kind of juxtaposition that the filmmakers Octavio does between the haves and the have-nots and the rich and the poor is what this film constantly does. Of course, this does it with a lot more anger, that does it with a lot more irony, and makes it funny in many places. This, of course, does nothing to make anything funny. You know, it's truly a film which is calling for revolutionary anger. You know. The film that we saw before this and many other propaganda films, as much as this, which is completely a propaganda film, use the same language of the voice of God, one voice that knows everything and one voice that knows the universal truth and tells it to you, you know. And the two films that we've seen back to back today tell you completely different truths or versions of people's truth from a completely authoritarian and completely knowing all kind of perspective. So it's interesting when the same language is used to completely different ends. And as a student of film, as a filmmaker, I find that fascinating to study.
The Argentinian film and to India today, it seems to be at the pivotal point of the neo-colonialism, because Shay's t-shirts have been coming into mass viewing, which was not there earlier. So I think there's a very, very definite parallel and something for us to learn and wake up to.
Yeah, I think Che Guevara has been a t-shirt and a poster for a very, very long time, you know, and very, very often to people who don't really understand what he stood for. And yeah, as an icon, whether it was Che, whether it was Lenin, whether it was Marx, what really these icons stood for is something of another different study altogether. And yeah, everything that the film talks about neocolonialism is something that we are pretty much experiencing, you know, in our contemporary reality.
I'm just asking, you know, this film obviously belongs to a very particular time and context, and although circumstances, like you're saying, are very often similar in today in this particular city, how do you see, I don't know, filmmaking language and the idea of documentary, or because we live in such a kind of post-political. What is the language for political filmmaking? Or, you know, because this particular language, when you look at it, sometimes looks, you know, we are at a point now where we think it is, you know, these juxtapositions are so naive and, you know, so simplistic, and maybe we've gotten to a point because these images have been bombarded to us so many times that we are in a kind of the state of irony, or something has happened which has changed our relationship with visual images. So I was just wondering as to what kind of political filmmaking can happen today.
I think it's not just true of political filmmaking, it's true of image making and filmmaking in general. So if your icon for, let's say, modern India was Dilip Kumar earlier, there is no such icon anymore. It's more about referencing, it's more about irony, it's more about quotation, you know. And I feel as far as political filmmaking is concerned, this, of course, I mean, as you can see, is completely a one-sided view. It's a brilliant film, you know, for most of it, you know. But yeah, I don't think. I mean, I think would anyway have a problem with anything that proclaims itself as the version of the universal truth. And I think also because, you know, this film talks about the mass media as being the later culprit of neocolonialism. Now, of course, we have around so many different conflicting versions of the mass media in our face through television or through print and so on. So I would imagine that the present day viewer is a lot better informed, or if not better informed, definitely more bombarded by information, if not news, you know. So it is definitely a much more self-reflexive take that a filmmaker, I think, needs to take while making a film or, you know, commenting on something.
Reactions to it then and now, when you're seeing it, probably, I don't know, you're seeing it after how many years, and do you still feel it as hard-hitting as it was, or you feel differently? What's your take as a filmmaker to a film like this?
I only found it hard-hitting when I saw it recently, because while I was preparing, for the screening, because we were shown this film in film school as something, and you're always shown, okay, this is T, capital T for Tarkovsky, and this is Solanas, and this is R of the Furnace, and so on. So you view it with a lot of baggage, and I think somebody has to put it in context for you, and that doesn't always happen. So very, very often you don't understand what you're looking for while you're watching it, and the way it used to happen in film school is very, very often, we'd sleep through films and so on. But it's only recently, and also I think as you grow up and as your own sense of politics gets better defined, then you view things, your own sense of politics and your own experience of filmmaking gets better defined, that you view these things in completely different light. And so I mean, I just feel that the various different styles that the film adopts, for me that is a very, very important study. From the completely verite to the completely constructed to the completely voiceover driven to the completely text driven to, those very clever juxtapositions between the slaughterhouse and images of advertising images from America. It's just such a cliched thing to do, but he does it very well. He really does it very well with Bach playing in the background. So it's these things that become important for me to study, which of course as a student I could not have appreciated, really. I don't know, what do you feel?
Good in Indian cinema and across the world, but I guess the way this is cut and the way also he plays with stills and this fast cut edited print ads with the actual things. I guess there's something masterful in this. I mean, I don't know if it's magical.
No, definitely is.
Yeah,
definitely is. Yeah.
Subtitles would have been in black, because in white sometimes we lost the words and we lost what and at critical points. Shadows walked in, and so I wish it was a little.
That's the whole experience of 16mm and duplicated prints where things do not really convert very well. Yeah, sorry, you've been waiting.
No, I haven't been inspired. I was still collecting my thoughts. I mean, I think it was kind of related to Rohan's question. Like, it offers so many tools to use as filmmakers and creators, like montage and like staying on a still for so long, and the way the captions come in, and also staying with the scene for like a heartbeat or a couple of heartbeats longer than is comfortable, making us uncomfortable basically. So those were really wonderful. And I kind of want to maybe repeat Rohan's question. What are some of the tools that you find provocative today that you've seen? Something, I mean, in addition to these, although this was so much. And then also you had said at the start that there was, one sort of omniscient narrative voice in this film and also in the Naya Dor. But there were two voices here, right? There was the woman and the man. And so I just want to hear what your thoughts on that are, on having two voices, what that added to the storytelling.
Yeah, the two voices, actually I have it on the printout. One is the director himself, Solanas, and there are three voices. There are two male and one female voice giving the voiceover. And what I would find provocative now, I mean, this is a bit of a grand statement for me to make, but I feel that, when I'm watching a film, I feel it should either show me something new or do what it's doing really well. So as you said that, what are the new tools that you use for political filmmaking? I would just feel that if you're making an agitprop film, then really, it should really have the force of something like this. Or formally, stylistically, if somebody is really trying something new, because you go through these cycles where you keep feeling, oh, I've seen this before, I've seen this before, this has been done before. But I mean, that's a question. That's a question we're always looking at. There are things that do excite you every now and then. And I mean, I think at least in India, it's a very rich time. It's a very, very rich and vibrant time as far as non-fiction filmmaking is concerned. There's a lot that's happening. There's a lot that's being shown around, from independent filmmakers from everywhere. So there's really a lot. There are several festivals, and So yeah, I mean, I actually think it's a very vibrant time, much more so than in many other countries.
I want to ask you, there are two very different relationships between the voice of images and that voice that continues in some way. And I was wondering what what is the intent, or what works and why it works, because I mean, obviously the second kind of just takes you, and then the other one is, you can see it with a detachment, and I'm just thinking about that.
Well, I don't know if you were here for the very first film, the one about the Republic Special. So that being a straightforward documentation, and a very important documentation of India becoming a republic, the first president being sworn in and all of them signing the constitution. Straightforward documentation, followed by a film from the emergency, which is telling you all the great things that the emergency is supposed to be doing. But formally it's called picture follows audio. So yeah, there are these terms that filmmakers use. So it completely illustrates what the voiceover is saying. And to me personally, it takes away, because if the two are two different narratives which are at some way, at some point colliding or coming together or not, it definitely adds a third layer to the film. One of the sound, one of the audio, and that adding to a third layer, which this film does, And yeah, again, it's completely a formal device that. I'm trying to think. I'm sure there are great examples where that completely works. But in this case, because it is illustrated, it shows. It shows, and also knowing the filmmaker's earlier work, it shows in that film.
I wanted to ask you, for my information, maybe
independent films, and they be curated in a way that they are. It's not like necessarily doing two films on architecture, two films on music, and so on, but films that would connect indirectly. So if the first program was I Am 20, which is about the youth in 1967, followed by John and Jane, which is about the youth in 2005, in completely two different contexts. So it's independent films and films from the Films Division archives. And as you know, that Films Division has the visual history of the country for the last 60, 70 years. And I think it's a very, very valuable resource and archive that we need to keep referring to, which is why we've started screening the Indian News Review newsreel of late, which we'll be screening regularly. And the pattern that we are now going to follow is that the middle of the month we'll have a foreign film classic. We are partnering with the National Film Archive of India in Pune, and these prints will often arrive from there. And at the end of the month we'll have a guest curator who will come and talk about their influences and put their program together, and maybe if it's a filmmaker or a film practitioner, they could also show their own work. So that's the pattern, and as you know, it's a weekly screening every Saturday at 4 p.m. And I also must point out that 29th, which is 2 weeks from now, the Saturday is Ganpati Visarjan. So the screening has been moved to Sunday, which is 30th at 4 p.m. But we'll again remind you of that next week. So let me announce next week's program. We have 3 films on visual artists and film artists working together, collaborating. The first one is a short film by Pramod Pati called Abid on the painter, cartoonist and now activist Abid Surti. That's a short film, followed by M.F. Hussein's Through the Eyes of a Painter. And then a 1-hour film by R.V. Ramani, a filmmaker from Chennai who will be in Bombay next week. So we'll have him here with a film called Heaven on Earth, which is about his collaboration with a sand artist from Germany. So looking forward to seeing you 4 p.m. next Saturday. Thank you.